Hello everyone, my name is Ken Williams, and this is COVID's effect on high schoolers' mental health. For my personal experience, COVID-19 was a transitional part in my life. Transitioning from in-person to online was extremely hard for me, and it gave me a lot of anxiety about actually going to school because I had been enrolled in online school for so long. And we were all just waiting for the day that we wouldn't have to quarantine anymore, or we could at least go back to school with masks. But as we all know, that wasn't going to happen until a little bit later. I wanted to see how others felt and if they felt like I did. So I asked my mom, Trista Williams, who is a high school social worker, to sit down with me and answer a few questions.
Hello, my name is Trissa Williams. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I really appreciate being able to be here and talk about mental health because it is something that is very important to me in my work. I think it's important to note that even before COVID and the pandemic and the shutdown and all of those things happened, mental health was already something that we were seeing an increase in children and adolescents. And again, before COVID, there was already limited resources and lack of access to good quality resources for different mental health conditions. But I think the most notable effects was the unpredictability and the lack of good, reliable, factual information. And I think because of those two things, and the fear, right, of the unknown, is we saw an increase of anxiety, and then the isolation piece of people being isolated and not being able to be around one another increased with the depression as well. I think both of those together, well, there was a lot of factors, but those were two main things that I saw that affected the students that I worked with in the school. Because we were isolated and there was no real clear indication of how long we were going to be out and when we were going to be going back to school, I think the loss of the schedule and the predictability and the routine affected everyone. And then in addition to that, sleep was affected. Just our whole life was completely turned upside down and disrupted. And so I could see the stress of that really impacting the students and the family that I worked with. And that looked different for different families. During the pandemic, during lockdown, we shifted to Zoom and Google Meets and telephone conversations being our primary mode of communication with families because we were all quarantined in our home. So the school really tried to maintain the sense of routine and predictability with the students because we knew that was really important. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to ramble on about my experience as a clinical social worker.
To gain more insight, I interviewed Kira Campbell, who was a high school student during COVID. She said that COVID came at a very impactful time in her life. At the end of her sophomore year of high school, right before the most important academic career, leading up to college, with the shift in educational style, I felt extremely hard to adapt academically and most importantly, socially. Most of my junior year of high school was spent online with little to no communication or interaction with my peers, which left me feeling very alone at such a developmental time in my teenage years. I still feel the effects of the academic changes today at college, as I found it challenging to adapt to the rigorous course load of college after I was able to complete the last 2 years of high school virtually at my own pace. I also found it extremely difficult to socialize with new people in college as I had been trapped in a bubble of my family due to the COVID restrictions, which is an aspect of the lockdown I am only now starting to overcome. Allie Ribbs, who is a high school student during COVID, said that when COVID hit, she was a junior in high school. COVID was all fun and games until we had to move school completely online. At the time, I was enrolled in my normal high school classes with 3 college courses on top. Being as though I was at home, I had no drive to complete my schoolwork, which led me to failing class for the first time. It was after that moment of failing that I started to believe I wasn't good at school, and that thought still weighs heavily on me to this day.